absolute blast. Oh.
You guys are live.
Awesome. All right, good morning. It is Tuesday, August 12th, 9 a.m. Public Services and Facilities Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Do we have any citizens' comments?
No.
No. So, where is that on the agenda? We were going to move
Oh, you wanna do
the,
approval of the minutes?
yeah, we'll jump through some stuff fast and then we'll move the signage at the marina up. All right, so approval of previous meeting minutes from July 8th.
Motion to approve?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have marina tenants? Nobody?
No
Okay.
comments.
Any presentations?
No.
Nope. All right.
I'd like
so-
to make a motion to move the recommendations for the signage from the EAC up to the front of the agenda. The interpretive signs at the marina dock.
Yes, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Susan and. Thank y'all for coming. And thank you for everything that y'all have done so far on this.
Cool.
So-
Thank you. And we were just here to recap, and then maybe there's, I guess you're going to have to vote.
Might have
but we
questions.
can. Do you want me to run through what
Yeah.
where we are?
Yes, please.
I mean, there was, I think, some information included in your packet, but we have accomplished a lot since the last time we were here, which was really at the very beginning of the idea of adding interpretive signs to not just the dock and pier, but also the adjacent walkway. And so if, in the information that we provided, kind of recapped the goals. I don't think we need to go back through that, but we have narrowed in and found vendors that we think will be the best fit for the project, and that includes Caitlin Hackathorn, who is a local graphic designer, an illustrator and photographer, who also used to work for DNR for about 5 years. So she specializes in wildlife projects and already did interpretive signs for Botany Bay. There's some attachments that are included of her work, and she's excellent, and I don't think we could think of a better fit. And I think we're getting a great deal because she's also somewhat early in her career,
Oh, cool.
but has the experience that we need. And seems very talented. And then otherwise, there's also EnviroSigns. We looked at multiple sign companies and talked to 4 of them, and then they wound up to be the one that we felt most comfortable with in terms of the fact that they are one of those companies that works with national and state parks. And they have signs that are going to be built to last, but also they were very easy, very responsive, and very, had a lot of adaptability.
And recommendations
Yeah.
for us with,
Where we were going to place signs, how we were going to attach some of the signs to the railings. There's a smaller set of signs that we're going to actually attach, so that hardware has to be custom made, and they were very helpful with that. So, and we checked prices on 2, and they were comparable. So we feel very good about EnviroSigns being the sign company.
yeah.
And then we've secured sponsors who will be featured just on one of the main signs. Isle of Palms Marina, $5,000 commitment. Barrier Island Eco Tours, $4,000 commitment, plus they're helping us develop content. And Islander 71 has offered to have us be the beneficiaries of their November 1st oyster roast, and setting that up as a fundraiser. We have to figure out a way
Right.
to collect that money, and then, so we have some ideas, and that's something we have to work out. But that could be $4,000 to $6,000. So altogether, that would be covering most of our costs, covering $13,000 to $15,000 of the cost of the project, which from the quotes that we have, and some additional things that we'll have to secure, some photography. We're hoping, we're not sure exactly how much we'll have to pay for photography. My husband will donate some of his images, but we want to respect artistic content and make sure that we're paying if needed. DNR may be able to provide some of their photography to us for free, and Caitlin actually has included some of her photography within her quote. So the net is that we may only need $3,500 to $7,000 of ATAX money to cover the entire project, which is, I think, gonna.
It's a
Yeah,
big,
it's a win.
it's a big-
And as you know, we're donating our time and talent in terms of content development, and we'll be working on that. Hopefully, as long as we get permission secured from City Council as well, from your committee, we'll get on track with Caitlin. We have to accept her quote before she can get started, but we'll be trying to. We have a target date for
December?
hopefully, November, December.
November, December.
Yeah, to
We
get
have-
them installed.
With EnviroSigns, their bid is good until September the 8th, I believe.
Yeah,
So that's why we really wanted to be here today, and then we are on the agenda for city council meeting on the 26th as well. So, and then once, if everything gets approved, then we can move forward with giving EnviroSigns the go-ahead for them. And then Caitlin also can begin working on her part of the project. And
Yeah.
then we can hopefully be on that target for end of November-ish or early December for actual installation.
there's two pieces that have to be ordered. It's the hardware, and that takes about 10
10
to
to
12
12
weeks. But they can go ahead and do that as soon as we accept the quote. They don't take payment until signs are delivered, but, and then the signs themselves take about 5 weeks, but we have to work through the design
With the design with Caitlin, yeah.
first.
Awesome.
So from a city approval process, the council would need to authorize the signs on your property. That's kind of the first ticket. The other part of it is the funding aspect. And it appears as though, you know, kind of if you were to play it safe, that the total expected cost could be right at 20,000. The current commitments that we have kind of in hand are 9,000. There is this potential for an event that there's details that are yet to be worked out. So I think kind of planning for the worst would be 11,000.
Up to 10 or 11, yeah.
So that's, I think, what I would expect the group or the committee to make a recommendation on, whether you support the, signs being installed on the property, first of all, and then secondly, approve an amount up to 11,000 of city funding.
Quick question, I'm going to support this, but the question I'd have for city council, and maybe just for the public and everything, is it possible to have, I think we talked about, is it 14 signs here and there?
Yeah,
in total?
14.
Is it possible, we talked, I think, at one point, to have some kind of a rendition, or just, pictures worth 1,000 words, to show kind of how is this going to be displayed or attached to the actual dock itself, so that people can see, hey, this isn't going to be intrusive, people are going to be, it's going to be fine here, where these things going to,
Yeah.
this is where they're going to be staged, and I don't know if.
It might be easiest for us to just take some photos with our
our
draft signs.
Like something like this, and this is actually, most of them will actually be vertical rather than horizontal, but this is.
No, they're all gonna be horizontal.
They are,
Yeah.
okay, all right. I thought maybe the ones underneath. So this would be an example of one of the smaller signs that would be along the walkway. And what we could do is take.
Pictures and show
types
how that
like
looks.
this and
Yeah.
take pictures.
That way people can sort of visualize how is this
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a schematic, but
Then-
this doesn't really,
And the map, actually, I think, when you see the numbers written, you get a sense that their signs are gonna be bigger than they are, and
Than they
it gives
are.
a sense of more crowding, I think, than, so it's a little, I think the map
This
is a little
yeah,
deceptive.
This is
and-
very deceptive,
And that's
so-
why it's a very big dock, and I think those
It
signs,
is.
if it's anything like some I've seen elsewhere, they're not gonna be very big and relative to the other. So I think some kind of a display to show council and everybody that, hey, this is gonna not clutter things up. It's gonna be
Right.
very non-intrusive.
Yeah.
We can get out
definitely
there
do
and
that.
take some photos to
Okay.
illustrate, because, I mean, we have some schematics of how the hardware is gonna look, but I don't think that helps much, in terms of the scope of how things fit in. But I will say, like, when we talked, the Environmental Advisory Committee all went to the dock.
Doc, yeah.
Including Katie, and with an idea, we were getting a vibe of, maybe too many signs, and as we walked away from it, they wanted to add another sign. So, to give you an idea of, you gotta be down on the site to just understand the amount of space that you're really looking at, because the set of the smaller signs will be placed all the way between the
Yeah.
public dock and then the next dock over, and that's a
All
lot
this.
of space.
Yeah.
Maintenance and access, fine from your perspectives? Yeah.
Yeah, and Robert and I
Robert.
and Douglas, and we've all been down there looking at, and they had good suggestions. Douglas and Robert were kind of the reason that we went with the smaller signs. We're really just tucking them underneath, so they're not jutting out at all. And yeah, go-
And we had to become very conversant in ADA compliance issues as well.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, EnviroSigns was very helpful with us, and then Robert and Douglas as well.
Yeah.
So we've got everything properly set up for the final execution, so that we're not gonna be doing anything inappropriate.
Cool.
Great. So I guess, motion to approve the use of the public dock or for the signs and the dock and walkway. And then, I guess up to $11,000.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so that'll go to council this month?
Yep.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
26th.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
we're
I think,
excited
yeah, I mean,
about
I
it.
do, probably if we can get some pictures up for people, just to.
I think that's a
We
great
will.
suggestion.
I do,
yeah.
even, I do kind of feel like it really does help to go down there, but pictures
does.
will help too.
Yeah, right. We can't.
Because, yeah, when you get down there, it's
We've
like,
done a lot of field
ah,
trips.
there's a
but
lot of room down
You
here.
can't do that during a city council meeting.
We should have that for the council meeting then, the pictures, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
There might be
We-
pictures of other docks and places that have them that might even be, visualized, just the relationship. I think they have some downtown. other
The Mount
places.
Pleasant one's got
Well,
it,
Mount
don't they?
Pleasant, although I will say Mount Pleasant, I like the signs that they have, but we've realized they're not very ADA appropriate because they are not far enough down for people in a wheelchair to see very easily. So I don't know if I would include those
Okay.
as
Whatever
an
you think's
example
best.
of what
Yeah.
we're doing. But we'll get you guys some visuals.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Laura and
Thank
Susan.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work and the
Thanks.
fundraising and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well done. Okay, so we are now on discussion of EV charging stations.
Yeah, we have, Westy is here today. And
Welcome back.
He's
See y'all again.
got an update from your last meeting, so
Great.
Westy, you can take it over.
Sure.
I was talking about this last night.
Oh yeah. What were you talking about?
Just having them on the island and,
Would be good since we need some. Don't have anything available
Right.
right now. So, but I wanted to kind of update from the last meeting. We kind of talked about some locations, and so I started looking at what I thought might make some sense. So this was one area that kind of came, certainly not the only spot, but this was kind of a good one. It's right next to Town Hall, not the greatest picture. But I'm not sure why Google Earth decided to blur the this one area. But this one's much better. So this would be just an option. This would be four charging stations. One thing I liked about this is typically we do a okay. Oh, let's go back. Yeah. Sorry, technical difficulties. one thing I liked about this location was we typically do an ADA accessible space. That's kind of has become a requirement for EV charging. So instead of a 9-foot space, you have an 11-foot space with a 5-foot access corridor. There's actually one that was already there. It's kind of blurred blue, but so that this would allow us to do that without taking any additional parking spaces. So there's one space right there next to the switchgear, and then that access aisle is cut through there. So you'd still be able to kind of drive through there, but if you did have someone charging that needed the ADA accessible space, it gives them a little bit more width. The other option would be to do it on the other side. So with this, you have the one ADA accessible space on the right, and then this would be 3 more chargers there. The thing I liked about this location, I think it would be good for the public. I think it would be good for City Hall, for people to park there, and then also good for Public Works to charge their vehicles once they start buying electric vehicles for charging. So, as an option, of course, they could do charging at the facility next to it. So, just thought maybe a conceptual. And the other thing is we like to be next to a source of power. So we have a single phase transformer right there, which is where that red line's pointing to. So we could come out of that, build a meter center right there for the EV chargers and set them there.
Quick
But-
question, from a demand standpoint, could we expect that those slots would probably be pretty well occupied most of the time?
No, they wouldn't be occupied most of the time. I'd say you'd probably get probably 10 to 12 a day, probably in peak times even more. So there'd be some turnover there or what much. And then some days probably 4 or 5. So it's not going to be like they would be full all the time. So, but you would definitely have folks coming in and out. And the ones that charge there, some of them may be there as much as 3 hours or so, 4 hours, and then you'll see a lot of them are there probably 2 hours or less to charge. So as I talked about kind of previously, there's no public charging. This allows folks to charge. They can walk to the shopping center, either one of them. They can walk across the street to Panama. That gives them the ability to go do some things while they're charging. And so, but it would be really nice to have somewhere to charge on Isle of Palms for a lot of the visitors who drive EVs and really don't have any option to charge. So, is there any questions on that location? Y'all like it, don't like it? You're not going to hurt my
Douglas,
feelings
you
if
got
y'all don't like it.
Any
It's okay.
thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, and I think I would also defer to Donnie and Robert about those spaces I think are primarily used by Public Works
Yeah, but
staff.
Public Works can, we have the 2 lots in the back that
Yeah.
we can put our employees, that's easy.
Yeah, I think to me, those are probably the last. I mean, they're used during court, they're used during kind of busy council meetings, but other than that, they're not widely used, except for the staff, and the staff has other options. So I think that'd be a good location.
What kind of protection devices do they put around those charging
We,
stations? I can envision those getting
Yeah.
backed into, because pickup trucks will show up coming to building department, they always back into those
It's a
spots.
great
and they'll just
question,
kinda-
and I didn't show them here, but we'll put a bollard in front of the chargers right on the line. So, or right either on the line or next to the line, depending if it's 1 or 2, and then that'll keep the trucks from backing into it. It's just about a 36-inch bollard, and we
Right.
put a sleeve on it so the paint doesn't chip or fade. So it's got the infused. So you basically build it with it's a 4-inch piece of steel, and you put the sleeve over it, and then that protects it, but also it doesn't look
Is that
bad.
similar to the ones in the picture over there on the right by the transformer? Up to the transformer?
Yes, those are painted and faded,
Yeah.
so that's what we try to avoid.
Yeah.
So,
Same thing
let me see if I've got
Yes.
one. If I got one here somewhere, one of these pictures. No, I don't have one here. The other option that we've done is done curb stops too. Curb stops are okay, but the trucks will roll over those, so we kind of like to go with the bollards for those.
It's probably a good idea.
But that's we do that
Okay.
with our service. So. Any other questions on that location? Okay. One other I'd looked at, I'd kind of looked at, I think it would be good to have one on this end. This is probably the more critical place to have a spot, just for somebody to charge. But, looking down the line for the future, Isle of Palms Marina, it's a little more complicated because it's paid parking. But we have an overhead line that's, if you see where that red kind of shaded square is, we have an overhead line right along that border. So it'd be real easy for us to do an electric vehicle charging service anywhere along that property edge. And then folks could charge there. I think you get some good traffic there because of, people with boats, people utilizing the marina. So just something to think about for one on each end of the island that would serve the public.
I think on that, though, that's leased property, so we'd have to, that would be,
I feel like we definitely should talk to the marina tenant and find out if they're interested in that, because I feel like it really makes sense for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you have to just kind of work out how do you police it. Do they pay parking and charging? Do they get a grace period for a certain amount of time? However,
Yeah.
I think if you want to charge, you'd probably be willing to pay for the parking too. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's time parking. However long you stay there, you pay more. So if you're there for 3 hours, you're not paying for all day. So you just pay for whatever time you're there charging. So probably would hurt the charging a little bit. People might skip that one and drive to town hall to charge, so they don't pay for the parking. But that would be fine too.
Yeah.
They did it.
I feel like that's up to them. I mean,
Yeah.
they're in charge of all that space, so, but I do think we should probably bring that up to them
Yep.
as an option.
Yes, it's a good idea. So there's a lot of traffic at that marina. So, I think one thing too, just something to consider is maybe trying an electric vehicle with your public works. I mean, you're going to save about 60% on your per mile costs, and probably there's a bunch of positives about EVs, and probably the only real drawbacks at this point are, you only get 250 miles of range, and it takes longer to fill up an EV. But if you're charging overnight, you're gonna be full in the morning, and the island's not that long. So you the issues that you would have, you really don't have with Isle of Palms. So might be something just to consider trying an F-150 or a sedan, a public works vehicle, a community service. Don't want to make your life any harder.
I'm out, May
Just
2nd.
say, oh, okay.
but who's
Diner.
counting? Right?
Diner
Right,
care.
Yeah.
So I will tell you this, Wesley, just to be clear, public works staff is, we don't have any fluff. And those Ford F-150s, for the risk of running them through the water during a storm, would be problematic in an EV, in my opinion.
You ought to watch some videos. They actually do better in water because they're sealed, so you can go up to the windows in the water. So just check it out sometime. They actually do better than internal combustion, because once you get a certain level with an engine, it requires air, so it floods out it's totally sealed with a battery. There's no airflow, so therefore it'll go through lots of water.
I saw the.
I know water and
explosions.
water and electricity tends to be, but it's actually a little bit of an opposite situation, just because of the sealed part of the pack. So, but it's a good point. So anyway, just a thought. But the main reason we're here is because there's other than there's a couple stations in Wild Dunes behind the gates, is try to have something publicly. So I don't want to go through the whole thing again unless y'all have any questions or anything else. Love to go through the whole thing again before we go with that.
Good for now, yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you all have I guess we would get to a point of a recommendation from this group up, and I don't know, we haven't kind of internally talked about it, but I guess this one to me is just kind of sitting here, the obvious easy, we control it, that's our portion of the right-of-way.
Yep.
Seems to be kind of the opposite end of the island from the Wild Dunes ones that exist. The marina ones, we could, you know, talk to the tenants about, but this one, I think we could do, if it was the will of council, we could do it, you know, kind of at any point that you all chose.
So is it worthwhile, or maybe we could even do it here? I think trying to go through the marina process at this point, if we hitch the wagon to that, we might not get anything
That's-
done. So if you're okay with this recommendation, you know, is it possible to do kind of a condensed summary so that it shows, hey, this is what we're recommending, this is how much it's gonna cost, here's what the timeline is, here's the ramifications for the city. Give people the comfort level that, hey, they're not gonna be people parked in those 4 spots 24/7, 365. You know, that kind of maybe revamp this presentation a little bit to get
To
it
hone
to.
in on those spaces.
Yeah, and a kind of a refined presentation on here's your total cost of ownership, and here's what the benefits are for the city and the residents and the visitors and things like that. And then, you know, I don't know if we want to do a trial cycle here at the committee, and then we get it up to
the workshop.
council, or a workshop in September.
September.
And then to the council in September or something.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, I would say just go to the workshop. I mean, I feel like
That's fine.
I mean, I don't have any more questions. I think that area looks good.
Okay, great.
I mean, I think it's a good idea.
that works too?
So Westy, that would be, I think that's September 9th, isn't it, Nicole? Yeah, September 9th at 5 PM here. Could
Sure,
you,
yeah.
could you be
What day of the week is that? Sorry.
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Okay. This should be fine. So,
You all comfortable with that?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
so just refine down to this site. and
Yeah,
more
just
details.
focusing on that site with those 4 and how much it's gonna cost and,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. I can do that.
awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Westy.
Thank you. Appreciate
Good to
it.
see you, Wes.
Hey, good to see you too. How's Walter?
Everybody's good, he's retired, you know.
I know. Is he bothering you to death now?
They travel.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Westy.
you. All right, so next we have the Waterway Boulevard project.
Yeah, so we were hoping, and Thomas and Hutton has been tasked with updating our cost estimates and kind of total look at that project through all the phases. The basis for their cost updating was the pricing that we were hoping to get back 2 weeks ago, which you all know that we haven't gotten back. So they're working on that. They've refined it. They've updated their quantities a bit, but they need this. They will want the bids back for this first phase to update the cost estimate. So the plan now is we have this out to bid. Phase 1 is out for bids now. We would have bids back 2 Fridays from now in time for those bids to be considered at the Tuesday council meeting. So they'll be in the packet hopefully for the 26th. At that time, we would, Thomas and Hutton will have had the bids back. They will be able to update that information and come back to this committee for kind of a deeper dive on the future phases in September. But at least have updated information on the first phase and bids back for council. Just to kind of talk at a high level again about this project, we have been seeking releases from all of the property owners. We got all of the releases finally, and then when Wild Dunes was reviewing them, they added a property owner in that we didn't have in our original list because they were not adjacent, but they were close to the project. So we've had one added that we didn't have. So we're working on that one owner now. The other kind of critical path issue here is we still do not have easements from Wild Dunes to cross their golf course. We have been told, we've been pressing them on this now for quite some time. We've been told that their attorney has draft easement language for us to consider that they're going to provide for us today. That is, those easements are not really a critical point for this first phase of the work, which is on the golf course, but they are critical to the environmental permitting. We cannot file the request for environmental permits until we have those easements in hand, and there's a lead time for those environmental permits that ultimately could hold up the second phase of the work, which is out in the road right-of-way. So it's a critical part. We need to get that in hand and get those permits underway so we can get the second phase of this work also out to bid and under construction, which is planned to happen this winter. But we have to have those environmental permits in hand before that work can happen.
Douglas, who has a, I mean, is there sort of, I'm kind of accustomed to seeing a sort of a project plan that would have the you know, from day here to day end, what is the timeline, what are the dependencies, and what are the milestones
Yes,
along
we
it? I
do.
mean, it sounds to me like we've got, you know, the one easement probably we'll get, but this, I mean, from the resident, but this, I mean, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, the easement from Wild Dunes seems like, I mean, we're gonna be approving spending on a phase one when we're not sure what phase two is, and I think the grant is hooked to phase two, not to
That's
phase
correct.
one. And that sunsets, what, in February, I think, but without an extension.
That's correct.
And so, you know, all of a sudden, we're gonna embark upon phase one when we've got all the grant money in phase two, and we're not sure, you know where I'm going. I mean, I just
Yes.
I can't see, there's no visibility into what's the total cost of the project from phase one to phase two, the timeframes, and what are the dependencies. And, you know, if we go into phase one and then all of a sudden we're hooked up on phase two, you know, we better just understand what the risks and the
Yes.
costs are associated with all that.
Yeah, so we
that
do have a
yeah.
workflow, you know, we have a chart kind of with these dependencies that we can share with you. It's very, I mean, it obviously changes all along the way.
Sure,
And the
yeah.
timeframe has been sliding all
updated,
along
yeah,
the way
yeah.
based on, so it's a fluid plan, but we have a Gantt chart that kind of has all of this information that we can share with you. And in terms of the funding, I mean, we can kind of we will be doing our best guessing, and then we'll be updating that when we get bids back to confirm, to adjust those prices. So,
And will Deborah be able to tell us kind of where the money's gonna come from, or?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and that's in this year's budget. You know, it's all allocated to a certain fund, assuming that the bids come
They don't
back
move, yeah.
in line with the budget that's already been approved.
And I think we assumed I'm not sure if did we assume the grant this year? I think that was.
Yes.
Okay, so now that's looks like that's going out into next year, so we gotta, because the grant, as I understand it.
Well, our hope would be that this would still all happen in this fiscal year.
Okay.
Phase two, all the work that's budgeted and planned for this fiscal year would happen this fiscal year.
We've got a
It's not
hard
going to be, it's not going to be done by February. I think we now know that with the environmental permits. They're going to hold us up from meeting a February deadline, but I would still be hopeful that it would get done. The golf course work and the second phase would get done this fiscal year.
It'll still be in this fiscal year, yeah, and that's a spend, we don't get the money until we spend it.
That's correct.
right. It's a reimbursement grant.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So what is the issue with the Wild Dunes easement? Is something changed?
So
They
as-
just dragging their feet, like where?
So I think that the issue there is we interface actively and frequently with the local points of contact with Wild Dunes. At the end of the day, they have key issues that they have to run up through their ownership, and I think that, and I don't, you know, I guess it's not like me where I have a council and I know the date you're meeting and I know, you know, the agendas to get it up to you. That just seems to be not as kind of formalized as it would be in a city. So it's hard for me to know what conversations the local points of contact that we work through have had with the ownership group. And I know that they're also, you know, they're trying to finish the Cooper downtown, which is a massive project. So I think, if I had to guess, they have, these meetings with their ownership about massive undertakings, and this just kind of is small potatoes and gets not dealt with quickly. So I don't, they've never indicated that there is a problem with the easement. They granted us an easement across the fairway at 30th Avenue. Their attorney drafted that agreement. So I
Does
think
Mac have it, or we have it in hand, or?
we're supposed to have it today.
Okay.
Got email from them today, but we do have the last one we did, which is pretty identical in its circumstances, and not sure why there would be much, if any, edits from the last easement agreement, but
So this should be a matter of just getting
I
a
think so.
document signed that we've already signed once before.
Yep, I think so. And they have had, we've had a lot of conversations similar to the one we're having now about, is this contractor going to be able to do it? Is it going to be able to get done prior to the golf course opening? So there have been a lot of moving parts, and I don't know that it was crystal clear to them that we can't even get our foot in the door for permits until they grant us the easements. I think they have the concern of, what if we grant it, something happens, a release doesn't come back, you can't do the project. So there's some kind of chicken and egg conundrums as well of, we don't want to grant something that ultimately can't be built for one reason or another. So
Is the target to have the easement by the council meeting, you think? Or
Yes.
is that, okay.
Yeah,
And then
I
there was,
mean-
wasn't there an October date that's kind of out there that we got to work towards or something?
Yes, so, and, I guess a bright side of the kind of pressure being exerted from the initial contractor that's been engaged on this pulling out is that we now have a firm kind of deadline from Wild Dunes of October 15th. So the way we're setting this bidding up, and we've identified, we think we have 4 contractors that have been identified that have the capability and the availability within this window to get the work done. The kind of time frame would be, bidding is out now, bids come in 2 Fridays from now, council considers that the next Tuesday, contract gets signed, which is in the bid packet, so they will have had a chance to review it, ask any questions about it. Contract gets signed a couple of days after, that then gives them 55 days to work in the golf course, get their work done in time to meet the Wild Dunes deadline of October 15th. They've indicated that can happen, the contractors we've talked to, but it's, we're now down to a pretty tight, planets will have to kind of align here for this to happen and not impact the golf course, so. We're working on it. A lot of work, a lot of moving
Balls in the
parts,
air.
a lot of, trying to get things over the hump. But we'll definitely know a lot more by council on the 26th.
So for the phase 2, we have to have the easements first. When does that, what is the deadline for that work? Is that because of that grant that we
Yes,
have
so
to have
that's-
it done in this fiscal year?
Well, and technically for the grant, the existing deadline is February. We changed the scope of that grant. We got there was a 2-year window on that grant. We asked pretty much immediately upon award of that grant, can we go from 6 feet to 7 feet? For whatever reason, that took them almost a year to give an answer of yes, that'll be fine. So Janie, our grant administrator, feels very certain that they will at least give that year, because we were on delay because of them. This is not one of those grants where they just can't, some of them do have a firm deadline that they can't extend. This is not one of those. So she's confident that they will extend the deadline of the grant. But that's, again, another
Variable.
piece of the puzzle and a variable that we need to get adjusted. We feel good about it, but we don't know for certainty. And we have been talking internally with Thomas and Hutton about how we could, that grant, as you'll recall, is 900 and some odd $1,000. We probably could front load the work to spend that portion of the grant to the beginning of the project to get that $900,000 in place, done, and spent, and then seek reimbursement, and then continue the rest. So if we were to get wind that the deadline wouldn't be extended, we would have kind of a path to accelerate the work to get that $900,000 spent.
All right, so.
So more on council
Council,
meeting.
got it.
We'll have pricing back and,
Yeah, a
Fingers crossed.
timeline, something,
yep, and yes,
timeline
and
and
we'll,
pricing,
yep, timeline and
Visual
pricing.
help.
yes.
Yep.
Visual
Yeah.
aids. All right, so we have, update on beach projects next.
Yes, so,
And we have a
this
storm coming.
yeah. This one, so on the beach, we have Stephen, CSE they have completed the surveying, they do the twice a year monitoring, they have that data collected. They give us a report very quickly that is just the sheer numbers that don't make a lot of sense to me. They then package that in a kind of layman's report that takes a little bit of time, but they have collected the data. They are going to be able to give us kind of lines on a graph here fairly shortly. And then there will be a report that typically takes them a few months to kind of put together. They are using the data that they've just collected to finalize their permit application. They are planning to have that permit application completed this month. There are some assumptions in their in that permit application that they would like to just get a feel from City Council. As they typically do, they will make sure that the permit application has more sand than they anticipate needing at the time of construction. So they wanted to talk through kind of, if they've appropriately padded enough, not enough, too much. And Stephen will also be present at the meeting on the 26th to kind of run through those assumptions and an outline of the permit application before they submit that.
So he's gonna be on the agenda for the 26th, you're saying?
Yes.
For the permit review.
That's correct.
Okay, how does, why don't you go ahead and finish?
Yeah,
that?
the other part, so we have kind of the long-term permit application that is being worked on. The other kind of more, I guess, acute or time-sensitive thing is we have, as we've been watching this shoal approach on the Wild Dunes end, it is starting the sandbags are fully exposed. And I think it's 3 or 4 properties, right, kind of the same epicenter of erosion that we've had for this entire time. So significant parts of the shoal management project are still in place. Other portions of it, the erosion's pretty well eaten back to those bags again. So council will be, the question will be asked of council if you want to continue to fund emergency work as it becomes necessary. I don't know if the conditions today warrant it, but as we've talked about, it's come back pretty quickly. We have storms kind of brewing out there, so we wanted to just get a sense for the willingness of council to continue to do emergency work as it's needed. So we'll study the conditions. That we had a very bad weekend of erosion this past weekend, so we'll provide that information and kind of potential, if council were to want to consider to do work, what that work would include and how much it would cost. So that will also be part of what we talk about at the 26th.
What about Breach Inlet and the,
We have also been talking to, about Breach Inlet, that, that berm, the berm that was placed by Robert Collins, what was that, 3-4 months ago, is significantly impacted. We do have an existing permit that allowed the creation of that berm. We have a technical question about whether or not that permit would need to be extended or modified to allow us to do that work again if we chose. So we're going to have a conversation with BCM about that. If so right now, those properties, to my knowledge, don't qualify for emergency scraping, which is kind of an automatic. That's an automatic permit once it gets within, or it's actually an order. But that triggers automatically. Anything when the shoreline is more than 20 feet, it requires one of these permits. We already have the permit in place, but we want to just verify if we could work under that permit to adjust sand down there to address some of those hot spots in the meantime.
I think I mean, as of I think it was just yesterday or whatever, the day before that, I think some of those are getting pretty close,
Yeah.
within the 20-foot. If we're gonna look at the shoal option, I think we better look at the Breach Inlet end
Yeah.
of the island option at the same time
Absolutely.
and figure out what we're doing down there, because the beach is exposed with the storm. I mean, deterioration's occurring without storms. So right now, I think on both ends, we're heavily exposed.
Right.
Have we talked with Wild Dunes at all about if we have to go do more emergency work up there? Are we doing any sort of
Cost
cost
sharing.
sharing?
Have not had that conversation, but certainly can. I mean, they have never, the community associations never participated in emergency work. We could certainly ask, but that would be outside of their normal practice.
I mean, because we have never asked them to, or because they refused to?
No,
or-
they've
I
not.
mean,
I don't know that we've ever asked them to. I mean, historically, it was always the property owners themselves that did that work, and this cycle it shifted to the city, but I do not think they've ever been asked to participate. We certainly could ask if they would have a willingness to do that.
And I feel like, all these, all of our bid estimates and our, going out into the future, money spending, we're spending on just emergency work. I feel like we're getting up to the cost of a full project. I mean,
we
and
keep
it's
talking,
just,
yeah.
it's always just, it's almost like, oh, well, it's emergency work, so we'll just do it. It's almost becoming, foreseeable emergency work. I mean,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I think we have been talking around what the arrangements are, and I think for the whole island and for all of it, and, I'll just put it out there, I've been working with Douglas and trying to keep these estimates kind of current, and even the rig renourishment now, it looks like the sand cost is going up from $12.50 to $15. I think it was a conservative estimate from what Steve is saying, which then brings our, if we're staying on path for the same volume, our cost now is approaching over $31 million for the whole renourishment project, based on what we were talking about submitting. That number is a daunting number for all of us, and I don't think we've got that's a $4 million increase from what we just budgeted, which was a $5 million increase from what we had initially thought. So it is what it is. I just think that we've got to talk about, how are we going to fund this? I think we better keep Wild Dunes very, very in tune with where our costs are going if we're going to do some kind of a cost-sharing arrangement. Sharing with Douglas yesterday, we've got, I think, over the last few fiscal years, aside from the grants, we've spent about $6 million on our beach renourishment efforts, and that includes access passes, design and sand placement, but it looks like, again, very initial, my take of it, only 50 cents of our spending is actually ending up on the beach. And I think that needs to be vetted by Deborah and others to make sure that that's correct. But, you know, summarizing all of this is we've got a lot of money coming into the, you know, into our fund, but we don't have a lot of money available to fund these large beach renourishments. And in order to do this, what we're looking at, if we're on our own, we're gonna have to deplete our reserves or go into, you know, funds that we just, I don't know that we've got the money. I think we've got to get this, we've got to get this solved as to who's gonna pay for what. And are we gonna be able to find other sources of funding that are sustainable to either keep doing this, or are we gonna have to look at options of either pulling back on the projects, or, you know, I'm also not a fan of putting tens of millions of dollars on the beach just to have it wash out. That doesn't seem like a good plan. So I think we're looking, you know, back to the assessment that Steve's doing, and long-winded explanation here, but I think we better look at options on how are we gonna, or can we retain that sand somehow? Where I know we're looking at potential groins at certain areas, which is not a popular solution, or cost sharing with the residents, or cost sharing with, you know, other places. We're not gonna be able to do this alone, in my opinion. So, sorry for the
Yeah,
speech,
no, I
but
mean, it's.
We gotta get to it.
It's,
Yeah.
it feel like every time we have a meeting, it's like, you know, we're gonna just spend another, you know, couple $100,000 here, $100,000 there, and I mean, these are adding up. And I mean, I've looked at the numbers enough to see that this is, we can't keep doing this for probably more than one more cycle without getting help from somewhere. And you know, I think, I mean, especially up in the Wild Dunes area, I mean, it's not a public beach, so it's, we gotta get Wild Dunes on board with helping with this. I mean, you know, the fact that we've just been paying for all of the engineering and the, you know, we need
All
to
the
get,
costs,
we need to
yeah.
get a real cost sharing, and I feel like a broken record. I mean, a percentage, and get an agreement. And I mean, because it's not fair to the city and it's not fair to Wild Dunes for us to just be in this like, oh, well, we'll come up with a number and then hopefully we'll be able to figure out a way to split it. I mean, you know, we're talking like really, really big amounts of money here. And I just
And I think we
feel
ought to get.
very uncomfortable the way that we're going about this, of just like, oh, well,
I'm too.
hopefully it'll all work out. I mean,
And I think it would be great to get Andrew at the table, the new you know, association head, and have some just very open, transparent conversations about, hey, here's where we are, here's what's fair, and try to figure out a way that we can all fund this. But I you know, aside from all that these numbers are becoming so large that it would require almost all of our ATAX money or whatever to fund beach renourishments. And even if we do get through this next one, we've got no backstop for the next one. And we've got no sustainable, you know, all of our other peer communities are either working with the Army Corps, they've got funding sources that they put in decades ago, they've got a sustainable plan to, you know, try to address these. And I think we're sitting here kind of naked on it right now. We've got that 1% that goes in, but as we're looking at it, that 1% gets cut in half with all the pre-design work and all of our other projects. So it's just, it's not keeping up with what the requirements are.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a great source, but it's not keeping up anymore.
Your kind of comment about the, the sources not being sustainable, we can never get the state to say, you know, we're in for the long haul, or, so it is a problem and a challenge.
Yeah. We're what, 18 months away from deploying, and, yeah, we don't really have a good solid plan. So, you know, one last thing, and then I'll stop talking here for a minute, but, you know, Steve submitting the permits, I think, is great, and I know we're a little bit behind on that, but if we're looking at all these second opinions and potentially other mitigation strategies that may or may not be popular within the community, I don't know how we submit our permits without kind of getting through that, you know, and I don't know how fast we can get through it, but we're gonna have to decide, hey, do we want to just throw another $30 million of sand on the beach, or are we gonna explore some of these mitigation strategies and get those we'd have to get those in the permits, wouldn't we, before we do the Whether
If they
that's the
were- that's
geotubing,
correct.
you know, looking at geotubing up in Wild Dunes, looking at potential other mitigation strategies, but by submitting those permits before we decide what we're gonna do with that, are we gonna just end up throwing good
Yeah,
money
we
after
did
bad?
have a conversation with Steven, and he felt like you would want those separate, you know, for permitting process anyway. You'd not want one to be hinged on the other. But you'll recall there is money in this year's budget for some groin design work.
Yep.
So there is, you know, we have that available if we choose to spend that on an alternate, an additional permit application, we could do that.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, next issue is the marina parking lot plan and related paving costs. Do we have
So,
new information on
yes,
that?
we do. So, Matt has stopped adding letters to his plans. I think this most recent one was Q, and he changed it to be Q2 instead of R. I think he did. But
Go ahead.
we will, Q2 has been, and that was, there were a handful of modifications that Jan Anderson suggested to Matt that got incorporated. That became Q. Q was provided to the tenants. The tenants generally felt like it was an acceptable plan, but they requested some very small tweaks to the plan. That led to Q2, which we now have. And we've met with the Islander ownership, and they've indicated that they are in favor of Q2. We also have very rough estimate on asphalt only at $300,000 to $350,000 to asphalt the entire area. That number would get smaller if we could go with a material that would be like a recycled asphalt or gravel. That number would get bigger if we were to include, if there was a need to include drainage or curbing. So that's kind of a starting middle of the road number. Wall-to-wall asphalt would be somewhere in the vicinity of $300,000 to $400,000. Had very kind of preliminary discussions with the restaurant owners about how that would get paid for, who would pay that, and nothing more than just ideas were exchanged about that. You'll recall that in this year's budget, the city has included in our budget, I think it's $190,000, Scott, but we have money for the park itself, for the green space, and there's some money that would potentially help with the city's portion of that parking plan if it were to be adopted. But that would leave the restaurant's side of the equation to still be addressed. So I think at this juncture, if this group is agreeable, we would present to council QR and, I'm sorry, Q2, halfway between Q and R, Q2. Q2, and just as a agreed upon plan, if we can get that kind of blessed by the Islander and city council, I think we'll have the basis for, there would need to be additional engineering. If it's impervious surfacing, there would need to be permitting, kind of the project would go from conceptual to an actual design project, so there would be work to make that happen. And
If we did gravel, you don't have, the permitting is, or you don't have to do permitting?
that's
Is
correct.
that right?
Yeah, if we were to leave it all pervious, which it technically qualifies as now, there would not be a permitting requirement. We
And
could-
that, when you're talking about that 300,000 roughly, the area immediately adjacent to Islander is already paved.
That would be to.
Not well, but
Yeah, that would be to remove that
Oh,
and
okay.
replace it.
So
So
we
that,
would be doing the whole entire thing.
yeah, that cost estimate is really from the side of the Islander all the way to the ditch, to
Okay.
where the buffer would begin, and then on the other side, it goes all the way from the boat ramp to the green space. So it's, an enormous, almost a 2-acre just swath of asphalt.
Is it possible to try to salvage the concrete that's already there?
The asphalt,
Or is it whatever, yeah?
yeah, I mean, I think they would mill, I think they would smooth it out, mill
'Cause
it. and
I guess I'm
probably-
just wondering if you left the area right in front of, the original Islander lot, which is hard surface, not pervious surface, if you left that the way it is, then that, I'm assuming, wouldn't require any new permitting.
That's
If you were
correct.
just fixing it up.
That's correct.
And
Yeah, it would
then-
just be the shared lot and the employed
And then
lot.
if you could do the shared and employee lot in that gravel that I was talking about the other day,
That
seem-
would not require environmental
then we
permits.
wouldn't have to get permits.
That's correct.
Kind of feel like that seems like the way, I know I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but that would bring our costs down.
And it would be cheaper, that's
Yes.
correct. If we were to opt to do
I like those ideas.
no permits and cheaper.
No permits and cheaper, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know how that would, I don't know how the existing space, the existing area that's asphalt with the new configuration would play into the plan. If it would be, you'd be just kind of randomly going on to asphalt sections.
I feel like you can do that because, I mean, like.
It kind of happens now.
Yeah, you do that in a lot of places. And then also, hopefully this is the case that, like, if we did that and we had gravel for those ADA spaces, we would want that to be asphalt.
That's
And I'm
correct, yeah.
assuming that you could do a small area like that without having to get permitting, or do you
I
think?
think so.
Yeah.
I think you can do it.
Because I know,
Space.
most new gravel lots that you see, it's all gravel and then they put
A little
us
ADA pad.
2 pads.
Yeah.
And I would think that they would try to make that as easy as possible because they want you to do the ADA
Right.
compliance and everything
Right.
else. So hopefully that's the case. So, yeah,
So are you all, would you like to put this on for council's consideration for adopting the conceptual plan and kind of then,
I think that's step
Yeah.
one, don't you?
yeah.
so if we do that, let's assume if we pass it at council, and then we would have to get, obviously, we're gonna have to redo some contract language
Yep,
with
the
Islander.
lease changes, the current lease speaks to shared parking, how that's handled. It speaks to the employee parking lot, how that's handled. And then there are exhibits within their lease that identify the areas. So at a minimum, those parts of the lease would need to be changed.
So so if council was of the mind to do this, that's pretty much what we would be voting for.
Yes.
Would be to move forward with making this a permanent lease change.
That's correct.
Quick question, we also, I think, Katie, I think you were very instrumental in this, as we sort of attach those resident parking spaces to the dock. Do we have to, does that impact the parking spaces that we approved? This is a couple of years ago, or is it?
I think
it was
that-
April of,
I think we've already,
did we?
I
So-
think we've already gotten the, like,
So the 12 that are in the shared lot, those
There
are
was
those
16 Yeah, no,
or-
there was 16 resident parking spots.
kind of in the
that we-
shared lot?
yeah, the
Yeah.
ones that
That
are
were
on the,
under-
the ones that currently have signs that say resident
Yeah.
only.
We kind of permanently affixed those to when we did the dock approval. I don't know
Yes,
if you remember that. This was
we
a-
did, but I feel like we've talked about this and, I mean, we might
I
have
It's
to.
just the housekeeping.
Right,
Yeah.
it might need to be, some language may need to be changed, but I think, I remember Mac saying that as long as we stick with the
And that's in their lease?
16.
Where,
We
you
made
think
it-
that just was a kind of a resolution potentially?
Yeah, we made,
It was an actual condition of going forward with the dock that I recall. We had a condition where we attached the resident parking spots to that dock. It got voted, you know, it was a kind of a permanent, because
Yeah.
at one point, those were potentially up for,
Right,
Almost like an easement where they became part of the city permanently.
okay.
so it might.
Let me
just-
look in,
It'd be a
But
housekeeping
I
thing.
think that they can be
shifted in
shifted,
location.
because it's, as long as you keep the same
Definitely be,
16.
yeah, definitely be way more, you know, when pipe the ditch picked up a lot more than 16, so
Yeah,
have a lot of additional spaces we could dedicate as resident.
yeah.
Just check if
Okay,
we need
I
to
will.
hitch
Yeah.
that wagon or something.
Okay.
Well, I'm not gonna get excited yet.
Do you need a motion to move that
Yeah.
forward?
Would impervious surface not trigger the county on our stormwater fee for that particular property
Q2.
Yeah, Q2.
If we were to change it,
to impervious surface?
it would,
It would,
yeah,
because we'd be paying.
yeah.
But that's only if
If
we
you
made it
choose,
all impervious.
if you choose to increase
Because
the
it's
impervious
already,
surface.
it's already impervious up to the,
Portions.
is it all the way up to the shared lot?
Yes,
That would just increase your cost,
your taxable cost.
Yes.
stormwater fees.
Oh, I see. But if we don't change the impervious nature, then we don't get,
That's correct.
so that's another reason.
Motion to send.
I mean, it is-
Oh, sorry.
I mean, it's better to have,
Every dime counts.
well, it's also, I mean, having it be pervious
Yep,
where it is better for the marsh and everything else, right?
yep.
So. All
Motion
right.
motion to approve and send version Q2 to council for consideration.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, all right, Q2 it is.
Q2.
I like the sound of it. It's got a nice ring.
It's a winner. Yeah. Don't get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Next, we have consideration of the environmental committee to ban glyphosate at city-owned properties. And this is something that I have been very much attuned
Yeah.
to in the environmental committee.
Todd, you mind,
And just,
you sit up for both.
I was gonna say, all right, Todd, are you here to
He's
talk
here more
that
for
and
lighting.
lights?
But we'll kind of tag team the glyphosate conversation for the benefit of the group. Todd Murphy, I don't know, I know you know Katie, you know Scott.
Sorry to make you wait all through this.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So really three things, and you've dealt already with the interpretive signs, but three things that have been kind of working through the Environmental Advisory Committee.
We're getting a lot of stuff done down there.
Yeah, that's right. And the first one we'll talk about is a ban on glyphosate on city-owned properties. And I will say that this really started for the Environmental Advisory Committee with a resident coming to the group and kind of speaking to the issues that glyphosate has been studied and shown to cause. And those studies linked it to cancer, had impacts on pollinators, and the point was made to the committee that it is maybe common would be a bad term, but that cities are taking action to limit the use of glyphosates in the community. And those actions kind of span from an outright ban for the entire island. And then I guess that's kind of one end of the spectrum as an all-out ban in a community. The other end of the spectrum is just kind of a publicity campaign about, what are the harms and what are the issues with glyphosate in our environment and on people that come into contact with glyphosate.
What are the alternatives?
And other alternatives. So that led to, we had pretty extensive conversations with Robert about, his experience with glyphosate with the city-owned properties. Had those conversations, also led to members of the EAC reaching out to Wild Dunes and the management of their golf course because they were seen as kind of one of the major players of open space that potentially would use these herbicides. And I will say through that process, I think that the EAC really kind of shifted from advocating for a pretty strong position on, possibly banning it either banning it community-wide, or kind of a dial-back position from that would be banning it from commercial usage, so a commercial landscaper couldn't use it, but a homeowner could. Kind of working down the spectrum in terms of what their recommendation would be. And I think that they ultimately are recommending that the ban be only apply to city-owned properties. That's something that, Robert has indicated that on city-owned properties, it's been historically used very sparingly. Gravel parking lots, very hard to get those weeds out. So they would, to a pretty limited degree, take Roundup or glyphosate out and deal with those areas. Robert talked to the contractors, the city's contractors, about shifting from glyphosate-based products to something not as kind of toxic as glyphosate, and it was agreed that could be done pretty easily without much impact to the city operations. I will say that the conversation that was had with the Wild Dunes golf course managers was a very different one. They felt very kind of passionately that glyphosate was a very safe, in the spectrum of herbicides and their kind of effects, they felt like glyphosate was one of the safer things that could be used. They also felt like if we were to ban glyphosate, that would have the consequence would be that you would then be using, instead of one product, you then would be using 3, 4, 5 products to do the same thing and using them at a much higher quantity. And that at the end of that exercise, you've actually increased the amount of stuff that you're putting out there that could potentially be harmful. So I will say they felt very strongly that glyphosate ban community-wide would be a negative thing for the city. So again, I think that's what led the EAC to circling around this policy of let's ban it on city-owned properties. Clearly, we have control of city-owned properties, and do that in coordination with a public outreach campaign of just saying, hey, this is a thing that the city of Isle of Palms is doing. These are the reasons we're doing it, and just kind of publicize the issues that some of these herbicides have. In your packet, there are other communities that have done similar bans. It would be, in terms of the text change itself, it's a very simple kind of one sentence addition to the city's code that would be enacted that would just say, we're not going to use them on city properties. So that's their recommendation. I will say that as we kind of got into it, you do learn that there are pretty wild deviations on points of view on this. There are studies that we initially looked at that did link it to cancer, linked it to problems, and we now have kind of learned of this body of work that suggests otherwise. It suggests it's not not a dangerous chemical. You would never obviously want to just openly expose yourself to it, but if you use it safely, that it can be done safely and without issue. So pretty long process to learn about glyphosate. At the end of the day, I'll say that I think the EAC's recommendation is pretty dialed back and just unique to us, and we would just use that as a launching pad to spread the word about potential issues that it can have. So in your packet is an ordinance that would do this. Todd, I don't know if anything
You
to
did a
add to
great
that.
job. You nailed it. I think, lead by example and then communicate and encourage others, homeowners and other commercial properties to follow suit. It seemed like the path of least resistance and a quick way to make a positive impact.
Motion to approve?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll move
And
that
actually, and
on.
I also do want to say, Robert's been great, and, that was the easiest thing in our meeting. He was like, yep, done, got it.
Yeah, to some extent, it's already happened.
Yeah,
to
they
Clint's
are,
point.
yeah, the ordinance is it really is just more of a publicity. a publicity thing of saying that this is what the city's doing, and, you know, hey, if you want to find out more about it, there's a heck of a lot of information out there on all sides of the issue, and, you know, I think it's one of those things that we probably won't know for years and years and years.
Right.
It's whether it really is not what it's
It's a
doing.
good step.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, and if council approves the change, we would get Chandra involved and try to do kind of a public outreach about, you know, hey, this is what the city's done, these are the reasons, and try to just kind of publicize that. So
Yeah.
that would be a part and parcel of the effort.
but-
Okay.
all right. And now we have the also environmental committee's recommendation for an outdoor lighting ordinance. And this is one that's also been going on for quite some time, trying to come up with the right way to do this. Our current ordinance already has, obviously, a lot of turtle protections when it comes to lighting. And so this was an attempt to make it so that there's protection for more or less making sure that people aren't shining lights outside of their property directly into either wildlife areas or neighbors' property. It's kind of the goal, right?
Yep, and I'm gonna let
So, yeah,
Todd take this
Todd, take it
one.
away.
I don't know if we can show the chart in the handout.
that's-
It's black and white.
this
Did you get a
is a very-
color? Okay,
yes,
good.
very good
The color
chart.
chart's very impactful.
Yeah, it's
This-
crazy.
Yeah, so we, you know, the whole thing around light pollution is, you know, just kind of a national trend that people have been paying attention to, the light footprint of communities. And this has generally been associated with larger cities, right? The bigger cities, it's harder to see the sky at night and things like that. But, you know, as you know, Charleston County is growing, and the amount of development on Isle of Palms, you know, a lot of homes have been renovated and expanded or torn down, and newer, bigger homes have been built. And then in addition to all that development and growth that we've had in the area, the proliferation of LED lighting as this, like the new standard. When you go to Lowe's or Home Depot's website, the most common LED lights are these stark blue-white, high-intensity lights that are $29.99, and you can, you know, put those all around the outside of your house. So the combination of all the development and this kind of new light standard has contributed to the increase in the light footprint of communities. So we've used this, it's really cool information, it's on the internet, NASA Visible Infrared Imaging Radiometer Suite, VIIRS data. So it really measures the visible and infrared wavelengths, and it kind of looks at, it's sort of a reflection of your light footprint, is the best way to describe it. So when we did this study of the communities nearby, we were shocked to find that Folly Beach had the lowest footprint. You know, it was much lower than Isle of Palms or Sullivan's. And we looked at Edisto, kind of a remote location. It was actually higher than Folly. So, you know, we were a little bit puzzled, like why are Isle of Palms and Sullivan's higher than Folly, right? What's going on there? So we did some work. Matt Sims was working with me when he was still on staff. We're still mad at Matt for leaving, but we did a little bit of a research on the ordinances of those same communities. And what we found was, as Katie said, Isle of Palms has a very basic lighting ordinance today. It's sea turtle specific, beachfront, geographically specific ordinance. It's very simple. If you go to Kiowa and Edisto, they've got some additional lighting requirements around shielding lights and not letting light reflect up or out, you know, making the light go more down. But Folly Beach really had the most comprehensive lighting ordinances. They were using all kinds of, you know, technical ways to measure light, to determine how much light you're allowed to have on the exterior of your property. Light had to be proximity-wise, it couldn't be closer than 10 feet to the border of your property. You know, they did a lot of things and were very thoughtful, very comprehensive about how to kind of maintain the light on the structure itself, the light shining down, lower intensity lighting. And so kind of the same concept we talked about with the Roundup. You know, we kind of looked at sort of the you know, the small, medium, large options here, and doing what Folly Beach has done would be, it's a lot of work. It would take a lot to get the ordinance approved. It would take a lot to monitor and, you know, manage to that degree. We also looked at, you know, the bigger offenders might be the streetlights, which we worked with Dominion a little bit on that, talked to them a good bit about possibilities there. Commercial properties like Front Beach and the Marina, and then, you know, the sort of the low-hanging fruit was the residential communities. And so where we landed was we feel like there's a really simple step forward that we can take with the residential properties And we've got an ordinance, I don't know if we can pop that up, or you've got that in the kit too, okay. So there's 4 or 5 elements, as Katie said, and they kind of come down to real simple terms. You know, don't shine light, the beach is a natural area. Don't shine the light into the marsh, don't shine it into other natural areas. The same concept, but expand it to the entire island. And Kiowa does this with the Kiowa River, Foley does this with the marsh behind the island, that sort of thing. Second thing was, as Katie said, you know, shine the light down and not out. And so that can be accomplished with a shield on the light or with the light intensity or the angle of the light. So you're not shining light into your neighbor's bedroom window, you're not shining light into the marsh area and that sort of thing. And then the third thing we looked at was around the rating levels. Kelvin is the measurement, and Kelvin is a light temperature scale. I'm not a light expert, but I've had to become one over the last year and a half. The Kelvin scale, anything that's like under 2,000 Kelvin is typically like a low-lit, kind of an intimate, you know, indoor area. 2,000 to 3,000 Kelvin is typical for a soft white glow. It usually has that yellow appearance, kind of that amber glow, and that's appropriate for living rooms, outdoor spaces, you know, kind of common use areas for humans. Anything above 3,100 to 4,500, that's that really bright, like a lab, kitchen, where you need high-intensity lighting over a specific area, and then it goes on up from there. And by the way, that default light I mentioned earlier is usually in that 4,500 to 6,000 Kelvin range, that stark blue-white, high-intensity light. So those are the kinds of things that are best for commercial lighting use applications. So we picked a Kelvin rating that really kind of gives that amber glow and included that in the language as well.
It seems like you've picked it's not a real heavy ordinance, but it also tries to address intrusion of lighting on other people.
Right,
I mean, that
right.
seems like that's the objective you're trying to get to.
It is,
This,
it is.
this seems like a great point to start.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what else you would need as you walk this through with council or other stakeholders, but
Any
that's a
thoughts,
quick summary.
Douglas, or from your perspective?
No, I think I think the committee did a good
fair,
job in
yeah.
kind of working off the existing. I mean, it's not foreign to us right now, as Todd has mentioned. We deal with it on the front beach already, so it's an expansion of that. Should kind of be a natural next step in that progression to go beyond the front beach areas. So this too would just need a recommendation to you all, and if you guys are
Yeah.
comfortable with it, we'd take it to council.
Make a motion to recommend it to council.
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good work.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
learning all kinds of new things.
Just kind of a housekeeping thing. Without a workshop between now and the August council meeting, there's a little bit of a sense of urgency in the timing of the interpretive sign, approval of those pricing. Would you two be comfortable with these two going to the workshop in September as opposed to the August full council? Is that okay? I feel like these need a little bit of introduction, so I
But
don't
the
think there's a
signs,
sense
the
of urgency.
signs go straight to council, but
Yeah,
these two go
because
to
of a-
the workshop.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that
that makes
okay?
sense.
It's fine.
So September workshop.
Okay.
Be next. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, moving right along. USTA tennis court grant requirements. Carrie.
Okay, so I've been working with USTA Tennis on a facilities grant for the reconstruction of our tennis courts, which is, budgeted for this year. The grant is $20,000, up to $20,000 per court, so we're reconstructing 2, so it could be anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. There is a stipulation with the grant that they are dedicated tennis courts only. So when I received that information, I kind of felt like I was at a standstill before I moved forward to look for a recommendation of, is this a route we would want to go, or keep the courts as are they now, which is multi-purpose. So currently, the 2 tennis courts are tennis courts, also lined for pickleball.
Can we do 1 and 1?
As I was sitting here, I did not ask that question. I would say yes, but that would be up for them to decide whether they would want to. They seem very much dedicated tennis.
Because when I was a tennis player, I really wanted.
Correct,
a-
yes.
One, at
You
least
know,
one court that was
dedicated tennis.
dedicated tennis,
Right.
because those
And-
lines are really annoying.
Correct. And I would say it would be my recommendation that we would do dedicated tennis because for whatever reason, why it happens, you know, I have no idea. But we will have pickleball players on the tennis courts and the pickleball courts will be open. And I get that they don't want to move because they've set up there to play. But it also becomes a very hard conversation for the tennis players who are now waiting because they cannot play
When they
tennis on
have it- when
pickleball
they have a
courts.
court, yeah.
But, you know, I will, you know, do whatever or go for, you know, whatever we need to go for. But I kind of felt like I was at a standstill and before I said, keep going with this grant and
Right.
everything that's required for it,
Is it possible to ask about the one?
I can definitely ask
Um,
about the 1-in-1 and just
So I mean, because
and
then
do
we'd be
half.
getting.
Correct.
If we got the grant, it would be 20,000 for one court.
Court, yes.
And then you
And I
have.
can go back to
and
them
then you
and
have
ask
one
that.
court that's not,
And
it
on,
has
Yeah.
both.
I mean, on the other, I mean, wouldn't it be a courtesy if there was an open court to let if the tennis players, I mean,
What one would think.
but can you?
In
can you
an
sorta-
ideal
can you
world,
sorta-
you're right.
Can we make that a little bit more efficient?
Can we make it a rule?
Yeah.
We try to ask, you know, but when you've set up and you're there to play with your, you know,
And
family
there's- I
members or
mean-
8 people, it's really hard to.
But yes, someone could.
But
Go
we
and
do,
tell
we,
them to move,
we do
but-
in fact say, you know, once you finish this game, if you would please move to the pickleball court, so. But anyway, so I just kind of felt like I was at a standstill with moving forward with all the requirements to receive this grant, that I wanted a recommendation for how we'd like to proceed with this facility, so. But I can go back to them and ask if we can do the 1-in-1 and just construct the one dedicated tennis. And
I mean, I
and
kind
see
of
what
feel like
happens.
that's a good way of,
Compromise? or-
yeah, trying to make it.
Okay.
And then at least that way if we get $20,000, it, you know,
And do you need anything from us to, I mean, if we can get the one dedicated, I think, are we okay with it? Does it need anything else to let Carrie keep moving or?
No, I just, like I said, since they were multi-purpose now, I
right,
just felt like I needed a little conversation to completely change that.
yeah.
So,
That works.
okay.
Cool. All right. The public service facilities related matrix recommendations. And we do have a meeting at 11,
Yeah, and I did not.
and I need coffee.
include this in the packet. And if you guys are agreeable, I think Robert and Amy have been kind of working on keeping track of the status and the recommendations. And I don't know, I would say we have 10, 15 minutes before this next meeting is on us.
I was gonna say, I hid a lot of columns to make it fit and not be tiny, so some of the columns were, I'm not sure what they were, but it didn't seem to be
Yes,
that for it.
yeah, we do have additional columns that kind of categorize them, put a short-term, long-term, aspirational column, then money. But we're trying to kind of ping in on status of these things.
So for today, is it an update on
Yeah.
where you are?
Yeah.
We're not gonna, okay,
Yeah, I don't think we'll have time to get.
Okay.
We'll get into, and I would say just, you know, at a lot of these are currently underway. Robert, I know you spent some time specifically on the kind of infrastructure and project-oriented recommendations.
Yeah, we just tried to make it simple to show what we are currently doing, what we have done, what we continue to do. So it's real short sentences, basically, on each one of the topics.
Yeah, none of these are,
These first two are just the ones that, they both seem to be focusing on Palm Boulevard. And I know that I've had multiple conversations with multiple people about the stop sign on 41st that people keep running because we don't have paint on the ground. And that just is making me realize that I think, and then the vegetation thing, and I was on my way here today, and I notice this every single time I drive this. I think it's Hartnett and 30th. They've got sawgrass plants, I think. It is not possible to be stopped at that stop sign and see if there are cars coming, period. You have to either be stopped way back behind or out in the road. So I'm just wondering if that's, and I think that's probably more of a public safety. Both of these are, I think, are probably more public safety, but I
Yeah, I mean, we
I
will-
hate to expand things, but I kind of
30th
feel
and
like,
Hartnett,
I think it's 30th.
but not, okay.
But I'm just wondering if that's like something that should be taken into account island-wide.
That is, Jace had Jace, the police department code enforcement officer has historically gone and kind of looked at those intersections for blind spots and either had the owners trim it back, or I think ultimately, I mean, some of it in the right of way we've trimmed back.
Well, I think.
But I can certainly give
I
that.
think that actually the problem is these sawgrass plants, I think they trim them back every year, but it
They
takes
just
them
keep-
about 2 days to grow.
They're
so.
right back.
Yeah, and currently, we went out to Palm to cut down some palm trees that actually grew from other palm trees that were in the way, I think 29th Avenue. And so unfortunately, a reactive situation. We
Yeah.
hear people, but we don't have, the landscapers will do stuff when they are working in the right of way, but some of the stuff, like you say, that's planted in a corner that the homeowner might have done.
There's not much we can do about it.
I mean, you can, it's in the right of way. Sometimes they'll get angry, but yeah, Jace had really, with the police department, had taken a role doing that. But we can certainly identify spots and
There's
just take care
another,
of it.
just housekeeping, I think it's on 3rd or 2nd in Carolina, that there's a stop sign as you're heading down Carolina. And is it 3rd? You know which one I'm talking about. And I don't know how many times I've just about blown through, and I live there, and I'm, in that area, I'm blowing through that thing, you can't see it.
Just hidden by
Yeah,
vegetation.
it's an
That's
accident.
normally a public safety issue with the police department.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'll relay
That's an
these two.
accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. So.
Does that one
um,
have paint on the ground?
No, it's a stop sign obstruction by the vegetation. Yeah.
But is there paint, is there a white strip?
I don't believe so.
Because that's,
So then the white strip would be DOT that would have to put that down.
so we can't do that. Can we ask DOT permission to do it ourselves?
We-
What if it's already there and it's faded?
So
Or it was there
certainly
once upon
the
a time.
city can. I will just tell you, if we put one white strip down, then we own all streets with white strips.
And about, I think,
Liability is then transferred.
Well,
yeah,
that's fine. I mean, this is liability, not having a white strip at 41st, I can tell you. I mean, I have watched probably once a week cars driving through there, not even slowing down. They're not seeing it. And the only reason that it could possibly be happening, it's not just a bunch of people that are mad because there's a stop sign there. There's no way. There has to be a problem. There's no tree obstructing it. It's a straight road. There is a sign that says that there is an upcoming stop sign. So to me, the only thing that could possibly be wrong is the fact that there's not the paint on the ground. So not putting paint on the ground in order to avoid a lawsuit somewhere else is counterintuitive. That's counterproductive. I mean, if we can do it,
You still have to get permission from DOT.
then I think we would have to go with the contractor where we did the crosswalks, put the thermoplastic band down there. But that's something I'll have to reach out to DOT about
okay.
to see
Yeah, that's-
what the
Not
process,
paint.
they've been, yeah.
I
it's a-
think so was there at that particular intersection, was there, at one time there was paint?
Yeah.
But it's
you can
worn
see it.
off and
It's
you can
either
kinda
worn
see-
off or scraped off, but you can definitely see that there was paint there
I
once
think
upon a
it was
time.
Thermostrip that was worn off. That wears off as well.
Yeah,
But I will say that I remember Desiree going to DOT to look at all of our yellow and white lines in the city, and they deemed them not to be bad enough to
to do anything.
to paint them. And then we went out at that time looking at the crosswalks, and then I did get some it's a strange thing. Some people do those thermoplastic crosswalks, other people paint, so it was hard to line up kind of a contractor. But I don't know the permission process after that. I know we were looking into it, we got the crosswalks done, but then never revisited striping where those white lines or yellow lines have faded. Even on the islands we looked into, if you look, you know, in these intersections, but that's something certainly I can look into.
Didn't we talk about this last meeting though, and when, in relation to taking the streets back, is that the DOT is usually pretty amenable to us maintaining our road, their roads, even if, you know.
Yeah, so we get permits to do projects, and if they issue a permit, and they will try to hang us with maintenance of their own road, even when we get permits, we have successfully been able to push back on that here recently of, hey, we're just doing what you all should be doing. We're not going to take, and so there have been specific projects where we've specifically had it documented that you all will continue to maintain this road. I think if we were to just start doing it, and they could show, hey, you guys are in the business of maintaining this road, it's yours now, because but we've been pretty intentional about getting their sign off and getting them to kind of document that we're going to do this, but going forward, we're not going to maintain it. Unless it's something unusual, when it's a tide valve, when it's something unusual, we can't get out of maintaining it.
Right.
So, yeah, we do have a kind of track record of working through the maintenance with them.
You would think that they would want their roads to be safer.
Well,
Just a
and
thought.
they're obviously looking for any.
They want people to run through stop signs. I mean, that's just insane.
So the conversation specifically about 41st, I mean, that 41st, and is that Forest Trail?
Yeah,
What's that
it's
intersection?
Forest
Trail. The point was made, and I had completely forgotten about it, that was a temporary installation. It was a 90-day pilot program to collect information. Council, according to the Public Safety Committee, has never gone back and actually permanently designated that as a stop sign. So that, we had, Chief Cornett had reached out to the DOT, they kind of had it on their work schedule to restripe that white line. We've asked them to pause on that temporarily so that we can, and the request of the Public Safety Committee was to see the data, we had pre-stop sign data on speeding, and that was really the intention of that stop sign. We would now provide we're still collecting that speed data through the solar-powered traffic.
That works some of the time.
That works some of the time. Bright days when the sun is out.
I mean, I honestly don't understand how you can have a halfway stop, a half measure stop sign. Like, if you have a stop sign, there's a white line with the stop sign. Like, I don't know how responsibly, legally, as a city, that we can just say, we're gonna have a maybe stop sign. Because there's absolutely nothing worse than having a stop sign that's not done properly, and so therefore people don't stop. Because if you know that there's a stop sign over there, and you are crossing the road, you have a false sense of security, and someone is going to die. So, I'm like, this is absolutely beyond me that it's incredibly irresponsible that we put this there in the first place without having the white line. There's a reason why they put the white line at stop signs. I don't think it's just for fun. It must be shown that they make the stop sign work better. So the fact that we've had a stop sign there for, I guess, 5 years now, that has been a half-measure stop sign, is irresponsible. And I'm sick and tired of seeing people flow through that stop sign. So, it really is kind of amazing that people are going to fight against this. I mean, I don't know. If we can't put the paint down there, I think we need to just get rid of it. Because I think it's worse to have it there without the paint. Because,
I don't think, I'd rather go the other direction. get
I mean,
the
I
paint.
absolutely would too, but I'm not kidding you. I see people drive through that stop sign on a incredibly consistent basis. And someone's going to get killed. Because we can't put a strip of paint down on the road. It's gonna be really sad if that happens. So, if we have to, and the fact that we're gonna just sit around and not do anything because Mr. Streetman wants to study analysis of speed is absolutely insane. Because if he cared that much, he could have done it in the last 5 years. So, I've said it, and we need to do something about it, and we need to do it urgently. And this isn't a political issue, this is an issue of danger and safety, and it's such a simple fix. So. Anyway, did not mean to get that far off on this tangent, but it is the first thing on this giant piece of paper in front of me.
So if you all are agreeable, we will continue to kind of update the matrix, provide to you kind of the staff's suggestions as to where we are on each of these. And then we'll just continue to just put on the agenda to kind of work through them.
Sounds good.
Hopefully make some headway on these. And I apologize for not having it in the packet. That was
okay.
my oversight. I should have had it in the packet for you. So we'll send it out electronically.
If we print these again, I'd like this giant paper.
Yeah.
Can we get, because I can even see these. Can we get 1 or 2 more columns? Are there any columns that were like really
There were
importantly missing?
It was a lot.
Yeah, I know, there's,
I think the two, though, that you mentioned, the dollar, what's
Yeah.
it gonna cost us, and are they light or not, are
They're
they
like
easy
X
or?
amount of dollar
Yeah,
signs.
well, are they easy or
yeah, the
long-term?
things that are like,
Yeah, we could
Time frame and
prioritize
financing are probably two critical
low,
ones.
kind of come
Yeah.
up with low-hanging fruit of
Yes.
cheap and
Yeah.
high
If y'all wanna
priority.
look at it and tell me what columns you want on it, I'll try
We'll-
to make it where.
We'll do
you-
that.
You got
We'll
it.
do-
Okay.
yeah.
but yeah, it is, there's a lot.
And I got readers.
But yeah,
There is a lot of
1117
information
is-
in there.
This does help,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll continue to give
Yeah.
it to you in that
Thank you.
format.
Cool. All right, that brings us to our next meeting, September 1st.
Sounds good.
I think that works, sure. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Off the record at